The message to the CEO or the CRO is, do you know if you have a revenue leak in a post-sales motions? Do you know what's the potential that you have for increasing revenue at 50% of the cost? Do you know how you can reduce your cost of acquisition very quickly? So, those are the questions that I have for them, and maybe they have really good answers, right? But I think this is the hidden cracks that go-to-market leaders don't see. Maybe it's not a good product market fit. Maybe it's not a good platform market fit. But if they feel like they keep growing but can hit their targets, then I would suggest that there's probably some hidden revenue leaks that they weren't aware of.
Spotlight, brought to you by CS and Focus, where we refine customer success, uniting GTM teams across North America. Hello, everyone. I'm Emma Lowe, the host for Spotlight, powered by CS and Focus. I'm here with my best friend, Sandy Yu, and currently she's the VP of Customer Growth for Revenue Retention Advisor. Today, we're going to listen how Sandy helps CROs turn customer success into a scalable revenue engine. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Emma. The biggest win here is you have announced it publicly that I am your best friend.
Yeah. All right. So, Sandy, what made you want to start Revenue Retention Advisor? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So my background, in a nutshell, I was in corporate for about 20 years. Great experience in strategy and go-to-market at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Oracle, and Cisco. And left that corporate about 3 years ago. I left it quietly because I wanted to do more and deliver more. Over the past 3 years, I keep coming across some recurring challenges that my clients are really facing. And that problem is the leakage of revenue. I decided to officially launch my business to help companies stop the pain of leaking their revenue.
What is the pattern you have seen across the B2B organization?
I'm glad you mentioned it's B2B because that is actually my wheelhouse. The pattern is customers, big and small, focus a lot on driving new business. They spend a lot of money, a lot of time, hire a lot of people, put in a lot of processes to get that customer in. The first leakage is, are they even the right customer? Even if they're the right customer, if you're a B2B SaaS company, the second leakage areas is actually onboarding and adoption. When the customer first come to you, they decided to invest in you, they decided to partner with you. And then what happens in the first experience is that they can't get access to their product, that they can't start using the tools that they wanted so much. They had gone up the chain to get budget for. It doesn't work, or it doesn't work as expected. So sometimes revenue leakage happens at adoption and onboarding, unfortunately. And then the next pattern that I see is that there's not enough attention paid to customers after they've properly been onboarded and have adopted the product. So it's like you spend all this time to court someone and take them on dates and life is grand. And once you get married, wah, wah, wah.
Forgetting to put the dishes
You
away.
start forget to, exactly. Okay, we're not talking about personal experience here, but essentially there's not enough attention or investment that's put in to retain the customer. And that's a huge leakage because not only is retention important, if you don't deliver value to these customers, there's zero chance that you're going to be able to expand with them because they don't have a good initial experience. They may be a customer of yours for 2 years, but you hardly pay attention to them. Or if you do, it's like, hey, just want to check in. Or, hey, let me tell you how good we are. Let me tell you about our new solutions, right? You haven't earned the right to do that. Those are the big buckets of areas where I see companies leaking revenue.
If you mentioned 3 spots, one is selling the right customer, second is onboarding, the third one, retention. I like when you said is earned the right.
Oh, 100%. Don't you think so?
Yeah, there's this saying that we are post-sales. It's continue selling and continue earning that trust and proving that what they bought, they realize the value.
I think a lot of, especially product software companies, they focus too much attention on get the customers to use it, get the customers to use it, right? There are very large organization that measures their health score based on whether or not a customer has logged onto their platform. That says nothing about whether or not the customers are meeting their objectives for the business. They bought your tool to solve a problem. They bought your tool to grow their businesses. So I think that's an area of focus that sometimes companies miss. They are very happy when the customers sign on. They're happy when the customers are using it, but they're not really focused on whether or not the company is getting value out of the solution they purchased from you, whether services or product.
You mentioned health score. That's something I'm passionate about right now. What is the better metrics or measurement to know that the customer is actually getting value?
You mean besides whether or not they've logged onto the platform?
Yeah. Just
Well, I have a lot of empathy for companies that did not build in those telemetry to capture the data of customers using it or not. Luckily, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use for that. So I think usage data is one component. The other component is what's the support ticket situation like, right? So are they filing a lot of support? Are they not? And how often are they engaging with you? And at what level are they engaging with you? Those are some of the indicators, but I think you can get very into the minutia based on what your product is, whether or not they're using it, whether or not they're engaged with you, whether or not they're submitting support tickets. Those are three big buckets. One thing I want to say about support tickets, just because they don't submit support tickets, it doesn't mean everything's okay. I think you always have to get to another layer. If a customer has been onboarded and they have adopted based on your criteria, then they don't submit any tickets in the first 3 months. To me, that's a flag, right? How is it possible? Maybe iPhone is your product, but even with iPhone, I still wish there was someone I could call to tell me how to do whatever the capabilities are. For every signal indicator you have, you really have to kind of look to the second layer.
And I wonder if that will be changing as well, because with all these AI support bots, people might not already found the answer they have on the website instead of submitting a ticket.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for people to take a look at those support data from the chatbots. So this actually happened to me. I was working with a chatbot. It was fine, but I was going through a loop 9 times. I gave all the information, and then the bot determines that it will send me to a person. I connect on chat with the person, and that person's out looking for the answer. But whatever the time they've sent the person to work, they timed out. So now I go back to the chatbot again.
Exactly.
It was so infuriating. So I think when you have AI supported support, you still have to look at the data. You really have to look at what is happening in those chats, because it's a very easy way for you to miss dissatisfaction in the customer base.
I noticed that as well. When it timed out, I think at the third or fourth time, I said, just give me a case number and I'll refer to.
Exactly. With that, I just don't understand why someone built a journey for me to get support this way, but they never looked at what happens if it doesn't work as intended, right? I don't know if these people are looking at the call logs, looking at the chat logs, and seeing the red flags. I am certain I'm not the only person that had that problem.
I'm really interested to know how many people out there are actually looking how many successful sessions, when you call it that way, in the AI chatbot world.
I have good experience with chatbots. If it answers it, great. I'm just saying, if you're using any sort of chatbots, you have to look at the data. I think vendors could do a better job of actually flagging. If someone is re-entering a chat journey within a certain period of time, as buyers, we need to challenge the solution providers on giving us better data.
Very interesting. We'll probably have a segment about AI chatbot in the future to deep dive into this. All right. At the beginning, you mentioned that you help CRO fix the leak revenue problem. Can I ask, why the CRO and what kind of problem you want to help them? What did they notice first?
Yeah. So CROs is Chief Revenue Officer. that in itself is actually a relatively new role, mostly on the tech side, because that role is new and easily misunderstood. A CRO looks after all of go to market. It's not just sales, it's not just marketing, it's never just customer success. The chief revenue officer actually is responsible for all three and the alignment of all three. And I don't think when you have revenue leakage, it's not caused by one department. There's a lot of different reasons why a customer doesn't buy, a customer doesn't use, and customer doesn't stay. And so this role, the CRO, should be the person that's looking at orchestrating all three to make sure that there's alignment so that you can accelerate growth. And I decided to help them because if I just help the CCO, then they only have access to what they have control over. They have access to CSMs, maybe tech support, maybe even professional services. But they have no say over who the product is sold to, the ICP. They have no control over how the brand is being positioned. They have no control getting the competitive information. All that information really should flow back to the CRO. And I want to help them because I think they're in a critical position to be able to not just fix, but also identify these leaks. So that's why I focus on them.
Do you find that, well, we have been over indexing sales and marketing too much than the other side of the funnel?
Well, over indexing, do you just mean over investment? No, I think sales and marketing. So the answer is no, but I think there is an underinvestment in the area of customer success. If you think about the three pillars of go to market, right? So a CRO is usually, right, when they're promoted or hired in, they're rock star salespeople. But the third piece in terms of customer retention and driving expansion and revenue growth from the base, that's an area they don't usually have as much experience with. And so if you look at it as a whole, I think they just need to start investing in the third as well. That's right.
And you're also certified by the GTM Partners Ops, right?
Yes. So I'm a certified go-to-market operating systems partner with go-to-market. Hey to Sangram and Brian. I was one of the first cohort to be certified last year. And I really believe in the framework. I think this is the framework that's actually going to help companies understand what's broken and how to fix it.
I noticed that not many people know what go-to-market means. And I see this terms of GTM engineer a lot.
What do GTM's engineers do?
This is a new term actually mentioned by Clay. If you see all the new jobs out there, they're looking for a GTM engineer who has a deep expert in Clay. But if you look at what they actually do, is mostly sales and marketing. It's
Outbound.
so is that the right name?
I think we can come up with all sorts of names. And we can talk about names a lot, even in the customer success area, right? Should it be account management? Should it be customer success? Should it be value advisors? So I think a go to market is the key. It's what combines the brand promise, the value we're going to deliver, and the customer expectations. Go to market is the motion that delivers that brand promise to the customers based on what outcomes you're looking for. That last piece about customer outcomes is really important. I think that should be driving a lot of the decisions that we make as a go-to-market function. Now, to answer your question about go-to-market
What is go-to-market?
engineers, go-to-market is the engine, bridge the gap between what we do as a company, right? Any products or services, and the expectations and outcomes that the customers are looking for. Go-to-market is delivery vehicle that would actually help us bring from one to the next. What Clay is doing, calling go-to-market engineers, I mean, really look at what they do. You know, it's probably using Clay as a platform to do more outbound, right? My experience is used for outbound, support the outbound motion. Like, who do we call? Who do we invite? How do we find out more information? How do we get the data enrichment? So I guess worry less about what the role is called and focus more on what the role is meant to do.
What do you think Like, since I know you work with a lot of companies and such, what is you think the most common mistake in CS?
So when I go into a company, when the CRO hires me, there's usually a couple problems. If they already have a team in place, oftentimes that team has a support legacy. What I mean by that is that these were people that used to be in support and they're really good with the customer, and then they get promoted to customer success, right? And so the challenge is the mindset of these customer success teams is still very much break fixed. They're good at making customers happy, making them whole, but they haven't been given the skill set to inspire customers to see the art of the possible. They haven't been given the skill sets to say, how do I ask the next level question and be more consultative? I feel like it's really unfair for leaders to expect that of their team when they haven't been properly trained. The underinvestment of the post-sales teams is part of the problem with that. So that's the biggest problem. I would come in and we'll take a look at what's going on. Is it a skill set issue? Sometimes it's a process issue. And that starts with a handoff from sales. It's very frustrating for the customer that after they've sold the product, after they've signed and they're all excited, they have to retell the whole story to a customer success manager. Or if you're a product-led growth, maybe the next thing that they get is a bunch of videos. And I think that's an important aspect of it, but that can't be the only aspect of onboarding. So it starts with the handoff. We as a company should have some sort of handoff document in your CRM, in your CS system, so that whatever knowledge we acquired in the sales cycle is available to the person that's handing off. Gold standard for me is that post signature, or ideally even before, we have the onboarding person with the salesperson, onboarding person, and customer success do a huddle so that everybody knows what was promised, what we should deliver, and where the opportunities. So that's the handoff. And the other thing is looking at the skill sets, looking at the problems and then peeling back is like, why aren't they doing that? I have this foundational belief that everyone wants to do their best. So if you have that foundational belief, then why aren't they hitting their goals? Is it capability? Is it willingness? Sometimes it's shifting the mindset. People in customer success are in customer success because they don't want to do sales.
They think they just make them happy.
They're like, I'm
their
the
quota.
happiness manager. Then you have to really change your minds to say, you know what? Happy customers don't stay. Since we're getting, go ahead.
Sorry. There's a saying is that the relationship still opens the door, but it's only the value that keep the customer retained.
100%. We really, dude, if you ask your CSM, if, you have kind of a small group of CSM and they don't have like hundreds of accounts, that's actually a good exercise. If your CSMs have like 10 or 20 accounts, ask, do they know what the customer's outcomes are? Do we have a plan to help them get there? Where is it documented?
I would even add, do you know who's the advocate in there? The champion?
Yeah.
And what is the
that's
risk?
called account planning. Account planning is a very common exercise in the sales world, right? When you're selling, you need to know the economic buyer. You need to know the financial
Budget.
buyer. You need to know the budget. There's all sorts of sales methodologies. And of course, in CS, we have our own methodologies, but I don't know that people know how to implement it. So is it a skills gap? Is it a process gap or a tools gap? I don't usually think the tool is the gap. So I look to see where the revenue is leaking. Sometimes the revenue leaks a little bit earlier. They have promised something, and because sales have promised something that the product cannot deliver.
Have anybody
Because
asked
it's
you?
on the roadmap.
Yes. Everything's the product problem.
I was at Oracle for 8.5 years in a product management group. And I think there needs to be better alignment. Now, if sales is going to promise something, are they communicating with product about that? Right? And then What is product? Is product asking sales, who else needs this? That's when they go to customer success. How many customers have asked for this? I think product needs to say no to features. So they have time to make the features that more customers need so they can generate revenue. It's a misalignment problem. It's not just one big salesperson like just making false promises. Again, my foundational belief, they're trying to do their best, right? Because they really believe that we need to get this deal out through the door for the quarter so that we can get our next round of funding if you're raising, but not at the expense of it churning 6 months later.
Has anybody asked you for templates and playbooks?
Yes, that's what I bring with me to my clients. And it's
Give me the template.
Yeah, because having a template will help, right? Having a template is helpful, but part of what I do is change management, right? How do we get people to adopt this? Template is just a system. It's not in the application, but having a template is a system. How do you get people to adopt the system that they didn't use before? They have to believe that this is going to be more helpful for them.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge.
I've been asked about this. Can you just put a playbook on this?
Are you checking to see how often they use it?
Or can you just give me the question bank and for discovery? That's another ask I got asked.
Well, it's probably good to have, but it's so easy to just get on ChatGPT, right? I mean, you can easily ChatGPT, this is my business. These are the common objections. What are the best questions I should be asking and how should I answer them based on our company?
So if you don't ask enough questions to understand what's happening before, oh, I see you follow this, so you must be X. That's not true. There's a reason why I follow maybe sales, mythology, or anything. I see a lot of those outbound emails, not really understanding my intent. Yeah.
Based on your title.
And then assume that this is what I do.
I understand people use scale for this, but I think we could be much more sophisticated in terms of our outbound strategy. There's so much Clay, Apollo. There's a lot of tools, Zoom Info, all the big names out there to help you. I would say take the time to do better research. Use AI to help you do better research so that you can target more specifically. I think the thing that most people miss is personalization. And you know why? Okay, so part of the reason that I'm doing a world tour of a roadshow for Fix Your Revenue Leaks workshops, it's because it forces me to personalize. When I meet Emma in a workshop talking about her problems, I'm going to help you solve the problem. Personalized to you, enjoy. And so I believe personalization is expected from our customers and prospects because there's so much data out there. You can look at my LinkedIn posts and see what I care about. You can easily look at my LinkedIn profile and say, she probably wouldn't be interested in buying a tool that could help me shorten the time to procurement. But I get procurement tools being sent to me. And I know it's automated, so not one person is doing that. But when I block your mail, that's going to impact your brand.
The same for post-sale. Like you said, understand what the use case is.
The challenge is when you have one-to-many, right? When a CSM has a lot of accounts, 50 or more, it's impossible, right? When you're trying to do a scale approach, the customer journey mapping, when you're developing it for your digital touch is very important. That's where I would recommend companies to invest the time to look at if you're going to have a digital touch journey, what is that? And when should you insert a human?
So
and
let's
what
say,
are the signals that you expect? Well, I think we would have already talked about what is your biggest challenge, right? So perhaps your challenge is that you just can't get the sales and CS to align very well. And as a result, there's a lot of conflict between the two departments and who owns expansion, who's responsible for that. I think I would take a look at the data. What kind of personas do you have in your sales team? What kind of persona do you have in your customer success team? And who has been more effective at doing expansion? Sometimes the CS team, they don't do expansion because that's not part of their remit. they've been compensated to focus on renewal. So they focus on that, right? The challenge with sales having expansion and net new is that they just mine the expansion opportunities. So the company never gets any net new logo. I think it's very important for the CRO to clearly articulate where's the boundaries, right? You have to use compensation to drive behavior. So you want to take a look at salespeople. Once they get it, maybe they get a certain amount of time to close additional expansion. And then there's a hard cutoff and it goes to the CS team. But the CS team has to be willing to own up to the expansion numbers. Do they have the skills to do that? You have to take a look at the capabilities. You look at where does the customer naturally want to have the upsell conversations? If your team is small, it's a little bit easier. When you go to larger size companies, it's definitely a lot of different silos. That's more challenging. So if what you want to fix is alignment, let's get the sales and marketing leaders together, sales, marketing, and success leader, document a customer journey. Let's have a unified view on what we would like that experience to be from the customer's perspective. So how did they first hear about us? How do we approach them? How do they find us? And then how do we engage with them? How do we sell to them? Onboard, adopt, renew, expand, refer. So make sure if there's clarity on all three in terms of the customer journey, you can say, what is the team that's best suited to deliver that service, to deliver value to the customer?
I have a hot take for you. If the onboarding failed, would you say it's a sales issue, or where would you start looking into?
I would start looking at why. What does it mean when onboarding failed? Does that mean the customer never showed up to the meeting? I've been in situations where the team that's supposed to use it didn't even know the product was purchased. They're like, what? What am I doing here? Because there's no communication from the executives or the leadership that say, yeah, we're going all in on this. This happens more often when you have really large companies and the economic buyer buys the whole bundle and then says, I don't care, now we're using this. I don't care that you're using Oracle Sales Cloud. Now we're going to use Salesforce Sales Cloud. And the sales team's like, what? Why? So I would say, if you tell me onboarding failed, I would say, well, why did it fail? And it depends on why. Maybe it failed because they were never supposed to be our customer in the first place. As they start using it, trying to implement it for their use case, it turns out we're the wrong product. And then unfortunately, it gets to legal because they've signed the contract and it's just a big whole mess. So I very rarely finger point, this is the department that didn't do the thing. Instead, I encourage everyone to peel back the onion and then peel back some more, right? Like Simon Sinek's, start with why and end with why, and then why more? Because I think that's really help you get to the root cause and help you understand. But so it's not like marketing's fault, right? Like you can't say marketing targeted wrong person. It's not the sales fault because they were told who they were supposed to sell to, right? And it's not the product's fault because the product was developed by the feedback from sales and customer success and support. So it's the organization's responsibility to have consistency in understanding and alignment, who they are, what they do, and what is the value they're supposed to deliver.
I love what you say about alignment. And if we take responsibility, there's no finger pointing at this point, because if the customer failed, that means there's some part of the system.
We failed as a company.
They don't see your sales team fail, but like your CS team, they see as the company fail in general. And that happens.
Exactly. I think customers definitely, regardless of the size of the company, see the company as one. And so the downside to that, sometimes there's a lot of people on the bus to help that one customer and the customer gets confused. But if you have mapped out your customer journey, you have cross-functional alignment, then you will understand that who is the right person to do what.
Alignment, customer journey. Everybody hear the keyword here. Yes. You mentioned indexing or underinvesting in CS. What's your message to the CEO out there?
Yeah. The message to the CEO or the CRO is, do you know if you have a revenue leak in a post-sales motions? Do you know what's the potential that you have for increasing revenue at 50% of the cost? Do you know how you can reduce your cost of acquisition very quickly? So, I mean, those are the questions that I have for them, and maybe they have really good answers, right? But I think this is the hidden cracks that go-to-market leaders don't see. Maybe it's not a good product market fit. Maybe it's not a good platform market fit. But if they feel like they keep growing but can hit their targets, then I think I would suggest that there's probably some hidden revenue leaks that they weren't aware of.
Especially going into 2026 with all the annual planning coming up.
If you're going into the planning process, be really articulate about what were the problems that were stalling growth. Are we not getting enough new logos? Then what can we do to get more new logos? Can we have better messaging? One thing that I think is that your customer success organization should be working so closely with your marketing team to help determine the best ICP. We have data in our customer base on who uses us, who gets the most value, who buys from us over and over again. So why not take that persona, put it into our marketing engine, and drive more opportunities and leads to our salespeople who can say, oh, yes, I helped the customer just like you, because they did. So as you're planning, look at not working and then ask about the why. It's not who did this. It's why did this happen? Because you're a team, and it takes a team to solve a go-to-market problem.
Like we mentioned, go-to-market is all the team together. The famous saying,
better together.
All right. I have one last question for you. How do you keep yourself focused doing all this?
I have a practice of meditation. I don't have a set time. I try to meditate 10 minutes when I can fit it in. I think that's very helpful. And I try to get my time bound, what I do right now, because of the workshop I'm delivering in 6 cities around the world coming up. There's a lot of distractions because I am at the same time trying to invite people from like 6 different places. I try to time bound what I'm going to do so I can focus just on that. Internally, I try to have a meditation practice to help me learn how to focus. And then I try to focus by using time so I can actually get some stuff done.
You mentioned the world tour. How can people get in contact with you?
You can reach me on LinkedIn. Hopefully you can put the LinkedIn.
Yep. We'll include a LinkedIn
on
post.
In the post would be great. You can also find the road shows on my website called revenueretention.net. The whole word, revenueretention.net. If you go to in-person workshops, you'll be able to see the list of workshops. I'll be going to Boston in August 20th. In September. In October, I'm going over across the pond to Copenhagen and Amsterdam. And in November, I'll be going to Singapore and then New York, and I'll be finishing up the year in Melbourne, Australia. 2026 hasn't yet been planned. If you'd like to work with me in 2026 or have an invitation to one of my existing workshops because you're in that city, just send me a note on LinkedIn or my email, sandy@revenuecco.com. And that's revenue chief customer officer. So yeah, thank you for asking the question, Emma.
Sandy, we have to have another chat about your world tour with all these amazing cities, Singapore, Australia. Hopefully you come back to Toronto. Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining our podcast today.
Thank you, Emma. Talk to you soon.